Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. My guest today is Hamad bin Jassim al-Thani, the former Prime Minister of Qatar. Thank you very much for being with us.
Pleasure.
Mr. al-Thani, I want to begin with the situation in Syria. Idlib is the last rebel stronghold, but it's going to fall, it seems. Bashar al-Assad has won that war. Yes?
Unfortunately, for the time, he won the war, he lose his people and he lose his country. I think this war is, before we go to Idlib issue, it make, this country, half of it is outside the country as the refugees, and over 500,000, half a million being killed. So any leader, if he win a war like this in his country, in his own country, I think he is not winning. It's not a win; it's a lose.
It's a military win.
Yeah, but it is a lose because I don't know how a president will stay in his country after all this and say to his people that I'm taking care of all of you or most of you, while half of them is in outside their country or outside their homes, and 500,000 being died. The memory is bad. Idlib might fall, yes, but I don't think it will end the war. It might end it temporary. But imagine with all this blood, I don't think stability in Syria, which we all wish, will continue if there is no reconciliation, if there is no real election, if there is no leader, brave leader to say, okay, I bring the peace for you with a high price, he can claim that, but I will let anyone run and to be president, not myself,
You think Bashar al-Assad wouldn't do that?
I'm not sure he will do that, but that's something which could make a little bit of balance of all what been done by him and by his regime and by his military, because all these people, in my opinion, if they need to normalize their life in Syria, they have to leave. Otherwise, it could end the war, but it will be a temporary ending of the war.
The war in Syria has been a major failure of the West and its allies, including Qatar, Saudi Arabia. Obviously, you were very involved at the onset of the war in helping the rebels, that's how they were called, financing them, training them. Do you agree that this is a major, major failure, probably the biggest in years?
I think it's a failure there is a failure happened, but there is a reason for this failure. Because Qatar was not alone, or Saudi Arabia was not alone in this. There was a coalition, including United States, including many other European countries, to try to help the people of Syria. And then there was, in the end, there was different opinions. Is Bashar good for Israel or not good for Israel? Unfortunately, that was make the last choice. If Bashar
what do you mean by that?
If Bashar stay in Syria, because always when you talk with the Israelis, they say we need Bashar because the stability in the border during Bashar and his father was a very quiet border with Israel, and they don't know who's coming in leadership in Syria. So that's one of the main elements which it shows that the choice is because of Israel, not because of the people of Syria.
What do you mean, that Israel influenced the West, let's say the US?
I think there was influence from the Israeli, and there was also changing of opinion from President Obama when he drew that red line and been crossed that red line many times.
For you, that was the moment?
That was damaging. And then the third things, the United States decided to have different opinion of which rebels we have to deal with or with not, which we agree with them. And they have the right to change their minds about the rebels. But it doesn't mean we fight among ourselves as an ally who's right, who's wrong.
That's what happened? There was a lot of infighting.
That's part of it. And part of it also between the Arab countries, or actually between the two lead in this, between Saudi Arabia and Qatar, there was a kind of changing opinion. Changing opinion not because of the situation of Syria, whose will lead. And at the beginning, and I say this publicly, the beginning, we have the green light from King Abdullah, late King Abdullah, that we lead and they will support us in this. And that was a discussion direct with the King Abdullah. And all his brothers know that at that time. Not all of them actually, they agree with him, but that was the official approach with lately Saud, also al-Faisal, the foreign minister. And then they try to, later they want to change their opinion. They should inform us. We don't mind to be in the back seat and they
wanted to take the lead?
Yeah, we don't mind they take the lead. They are the big country. We choose to be there because they don't want to appear in the beginning that they are, completely involved. For us, what drives us to go to this is not kind of any preference to any parties, but after the killing which we saw in Syria, we did not want it to be continuous, and it was easy to change the regime first year. Easy because there was no Russian completely involvement, no Iranian. We have a good relation with Russia and with Iran, but sometimes we have a different opinion.
So why didn't it happen the first year?
I think, as I said, the fight happened between the different ally or different opinion, let me call it, not a fight. And we end by this situation, which it is not a victory. I don't want to call it a victory for. You cannot win and every house in Syria lose somebody from the family, his family. You cannot win while the country completely destroyed. Did you see some of the towns in the city which has been destroyed? Yes. It reminds me about World War, Second War, So where is the win?
There were accusations that Qatar funded al-Nusra, which was linked to al-Qaeda. This happened, yes.
I'm not involved directly in this.
You were involved.
I am involved as a foreign minister, yes,
yes.
But let me put it this way. I don't think we have a relation with somebody which United States and all the other allies does not know about it. There was 2 operation rooms at that time, one in Jordan and one in Turkey. And that operation rooms, all the allies, they have their representative there. And everything been done, it's been done with the approval of all the representatives. Later, we hear in Nusra that it is not recommended or not welcomed in this coalition. And then we pull ourselves completely from anybody. But I cannot say that we support al-Nusra. We support many people.
You did so when everyone did. Is this what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying this also. I'm saying we support many people to free their countries. And the support was not Qatar doing it. The ally was doing that support.
So you're saying singling out Qatar is unfair?
Including the United States and all the other allies. The decision was taken by enemy's countries, not by Qatar. And you know by now why Qatar name being put in that, because for other reasons in the region
which we're getting to, obviously, the crisis with your neighbors. It's been over a year now that several countries led by Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, have declared what they call an embargo, you call a blockade against Qatar, accusing it essentially of siding with Iran, of fomenting terrorism. Is there any solution in sight?
I cannot see a solution with the same attitude.
Is the attitude changing?
Yeah, we need to change the attitude.
Your attitude or their attitude?
I think we did not start this. And we've been caught by surprise by what happened at that day in Ramadan. Because there was no legitimate reason for that.
No warning signs?
You know, and I know by now that Qatar Monetary Agency was a fake and been hacked. And that's internationally known by now that it's been hacked. And why it's been hacked and from who's been hacked. It's been hacked to start a reason against Qatar at that time because there was no reason, legitimate reason. First 3-4 days, everybody talking about that the emir of Qatar was saying something which is against Saudi Arabia, which he did not, he was in air from when he arrived until he left. He did not spoke to any, anybody from, the journalist or anybody or Qatar monetary agencies. And they claimed that he was saying something. And they usually, as they do, they announce it after in the morning, early morning, usually their announcement in the early morning. So we being caught by surprise. That was the 4-5 days started this. Then they start to add more reasons. And every time they come with a reason which it make me feel, okay, what else more? Because this reason is not legitimate, this reason is not legitimate.
Donald Trump lent support to the Saudis initially.
That's what we hear, but
No,
also...
that's what he said.
Yeah, but later he changed his mind because he could see, and his people could see, that all what they claim, the two countries, is not fair and not right against Qatar. It's been done for a reason which I know the reason.
What?
But in the same time, I'm surprising why they use this reason. It is, they want, to hijack Qatar completely or to invade Qatar by a puppet, any puppet from the family. This is what they claim in the beginning. And they start many ways.
So they want to overthrow the
now,
emir.
Yeah, but why? Why? We have to know why. And one of the guys which they tried to use from the family, he said clearly that they are after the wealth of Qatar, they are after Qatar sovereign, and our sovereignty is a red line, as His Highness the Emir said. By now, they should know that this is a red line. We cannot accept anybody to interfere in our sovereignty, in our way how to be governed, with whom being governed. And luckily, not luckily, it shows them now, the people, the solidarity of the Qataris. That's the big answer to them. Solidarity in Qatar has never been like this between the families, between all the Qataris surrounding their emir. And that's the big answer for them. But what caught me by surprise is under whose advice this decision being made, and under what, how we can value the GCC cooperation and where it is.
The Gulf Cooperation Council.
Yeah, it is not there anymore. So we destroy the Gulf Cooperation. We destroy...
Who is we?
We, the GCC, they destroy actually, not we.
The Saudis.
They destroy the Saudis and the Emiratis, destroyed by their move, the GCC, the harmony between the GCC countries. We want now to restore, but how to restore things when there is no confidence? We have no confidence now. We need to build confidence before we talk about any kind of a solution.
So now there's no solution in sight.
I did not hear about any solution.
You talked about the UAE leadership, the Saudi leadership. Let's be more precise and more frank, maybe. Who do you have in mind? You recently came out with some tweets making reference to the fact that states were failing if the leadership was not up to the task. What do you mean by that? Do you speak about the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, Mohammed bin Zayed of the UAE?
Always in history, we have a relation even when we have problem with the Saudis. And I personally have a good relation with King Salman, a family relation between us with King Salman and his family and my family personally, which I really value. What I don't like, that a new leader to start his leadership with all these conflicts inside and outside Saudi Arabia. For me and for the Qataris, we wish Saudi Arabia to be stable. We wish to have a strong leadership in Saudi Arabia. We wish that they are successful, because stable Saudi Arabia is good for the GCC countries. Stable leadership is good for the other leadership in the region. No doubt about that. But at the moment, if the leadership, which I always said that they should lead the GCC, how they will lead the GCC, and they take one of the countries of the GCC and try to do a false sabotaging, bullying this country for no reason. There is no reason. All these reasons which they mention, or the 13 or 15, condition demands which they put, it's false demand, in my opinion. And they, we are not in a war and we lost the war and somebody have to come and let us sign a treaty or a new law for the region. Why they did not go to the GCC and call all the other leaderships and tell them, well, we have problem with this country, and that's the problems. From the beginning, they say they have the evidence against Qatar. Till now, we don't know what is the evidence and where is the evidence. United States would support them a few weeks when they started this for a few months. They are not supporting them now in this issue because they know there is no evidence or no base for all the claims or all what they say of Qatar. It's, what I consider it? When you are sitting in a night, 1,000 day and what they call it night.
1,001 night.
1,001 night, and you have a nice gathering, and you decide, you decide at night with a few of your friends that, okay, let us go tomorrow and do this. And I think this has been decided in a weird way with people irresponsible to make this act against my country with no base, with no strategy why, and being decided, okay, let us tomorrow go and do this against Qatar because we don't like the emir of Qatar. Okay, or if you don't like the emir of Qatar, you can always, if you go to Europe here, not all the leaderships, they like each others. And they have a lot of difference. But they have the European Union, which they can go and talk together and solve their problem in a civilized way. How, they did in Saudi Arabia, for example, many good things to show that they are civilized. From the women driving, till allow, the cinema, till allow, the music and this. You can agree, you can disagree with all the opening which they do. With all this, they should open also their opinion, the opinion in Saudi Arabia, inside Saudi Arabia and outside Saudi Arabia. Well, there is, you cannot do what you think is right only from your point of view. You have to take in consideration the other part.
Let me ask you very precisely, Mohammed bin Salman, is he a danger for the region?
I will tell
Honestly.
you. I will tell you one thing. I was one of the guys who think in the beginning that Mohammed bin Salman is a new leadership. He might be something, and I said this also in one of my tweets. And I still think that he might one day go back and see that there is somebody took him to dangerous zones inside Saudi Arabia, outside Saudi Arabia in a policy, and he will sit with himself and find that, okay, I am not a leader for Saudi Arabia. I want to be tomorrow the king, and I want to be a leader for all the GCC countries. And if I want to be a leader, I will be like a father for all of them. I will embrace them. If I have a difference with somebody, I will try to talk with him and try to solve the problem. What we see now is no. You cannot do everything by force, either in your country or outside country. Up till now, I'm disappointed, let me put it this way. Up till now, I'm disappointed because many things been done which it should not be done in the region at this time with all the dangers around the GCC countries to try to make a crack in the GCC country.
So he's a danger.
I'm not saying he's a danger. I'm saying that up till now, before I was having a big hope, now what I could see is not a good signs, but I also have a hope in him and his father that they will talk with them among themselves and they say, okay, let us try to find a way to stabilize, to lead the GCC. You know, look at 1 year or 2 years which we lose. These 2 years is a very valuable 2 years for all the GCC in terms, you know, you need to do a lot of things in Saudi Arabia before you go and see your neighbors. You need to do a lot of things for the people of Saudi Arabia, inside Saudi Arabia, from education till medication. You need to, the housing, you need to look at the housing, you need to look at dam. For example, I don't support to build a new city. What I will support is to look at the cities and to try to, you know, Jeddah, every year, there is in Jeddah the rain, and half of Jeddah destroyed because of that rain. I prefer to repair the rain. That will be priority. You have King Abdullah city inside Riyadh, which it's empty. Try to do this science or high-tech things. But you know, you need to start to correct what you have before you start doing new things.
He needs to grow up in a way.
No, I don't want to say grow up. He's a crown prince and he will be a king one day. But he need to listen, and there is a very talented Saudis which they need to give the sincere advice to him. And I don't think his ally, let me put it this way, Abu Dhabi give him the right advice all the time.
Mohammed bin Zayed.
I don't want to name, but I can say.
I can do so.
Yeah, I think he is not being advised well for the benefit of Saudi Arabia and for the people of Saudi Arabia. And for me, if Mohammed bin Salman is successful, I swear, I will be the first guy happy in Qatar about that, because I said a nice word, and I believe he have the talent. He have the talent, but he need now to see how to build the relation, not to build his country, to build his country first, and to try to build the bridges between countries and to strengthen the GCC. With this 1.5 years, with all the nasty words, bad words, we reach a level of really a bad level of wording between the GCC. We never ever had this before. I think we could do a lot of things, not to spend all these millions in the lobbyings in America or in Europe against each others. We can spend it for our people. We don't need to cut salary for our people to finance other things. We need to raise the salary for our people, in my opinion.
Is Iran or Saudi Arabia the biggest danger? Which one of those in the region?
Look, let me put it this way. I have my opinion always.
I'm asking for it.
First of all, Saudi Arabia is naturally our ally and our brothers. And we should be, and they should be part of the GCC. That's my first. We have to strengthen the GCC. Iran, our neighbor, and we should have a relation, and we should fight to have a normal relation with Iran. And to have a normal relation, the best thing is to talk face by face with Iran, not through when we see the American, they're trying to pressure Iran, we try to pressure Iran more.
You think they want to go to war with Iran?
Do you think it's in our benefit to go war against Iran?
Do you think the Americans are willing to go to war?
American, I don't know what they think, but I know what we think about our region. Our region doesn't need a war or doesn't need a tension. We wish that this problem to be solved peacefully between United States and Iran. And I wish to see a serious dialogue between the GCC and Iran. And we should draw a line between us, a red line. They should not cross it. We should not cross it in the relationship between the countries. And also, we should try to build economic relation with Iran. We try to build bridges and to be good neighbor in that region. We don't need that problem.
Last issue I want to get to, because we're running out of time, the issue of Palestine. We've seen the Trump administration shut down the embassy, quote unquote, of Palestine in the US, cut the funds for the UN agency in charge of Palestinian refugees. We're 25 years after the Oslo peace accords. The Palestinian state seems to be as remote as it's ever been.
Yeah, but it is not finished.
You still have hope.
It cannot finish by a decision. This is all because also there is a problem in understanding the region from the American. They have a consultant with they consult with 2 or 3 countries in the Middle East for that peace process.
Who?
And they did not talk to the Palestinians from the beginning. I think this deal could be achieved, especially with this administration. But if you want to be a referee, you need to be fair between both sides, and you have to see the 2 demands. You don't need to do the demand which Netanyahu want 100% or what Abu Mazen want 100%. But we have a reference, and our reference is the United Nations resolution and what been agreed in previous administration in the United States. And we try to play in swaps and things, but you cannot force the Palestinian by taking some Arab countries with you to force them to accept by hook or crook, by some money or by force, to have a solution which they think it's not fair. Historically is not good for us. The problem in this, that, Qatar pay a high price for the peace because we believe in peace. I believe personally in peace. And I believe we should reach a solution with between the Palestinian and the Israelis. And I really think that Jared Kushner, he's doing his best. But I think
he's fair?
No, but I think he's doing his best to have a peace. But you cannot have a peace by talking to one party. You have to talk with the 2 parties. And you have to bring them to decide what sort of peace they want. You cannot decide which peace will be done between the Palestinians.
You mentioned one interesting thing, and probably brings us back to what we've discussed. You're saying some Arab countries are essentially siding with the Trump administration to put pressure on the Palestinians. Which countries are doing essentially America's job?
I think they are among the 4 countries or the 3 countries which they are boycotting Qatar. These countries, they think, or the administration think that you cannot do peace without all the Arab agreeing, and first, not all the Arab, the Palestinian, Mahmoud Abbas, to agree about what sort of peace could be done. Because Mahmoud Abbas cannot sign in any paper if it's against the will of the people. He's over 80 years old. For him to live with a legacy, he needs to think.
I'm going to ask the question differently, more bluntly maybe. Are you implying that Saudi Arabia and the UAE are betraying the Palestinian cause?
No, not the betraying. I could say that they think, these 2 countries, they think that they can achieve a peace between the Palestinian and the Israelis. And these countries, they think that because going aside with let me put it frankly, with the Israeli, that will please the American administration. All the Arabs, when they talk to the Israeli, is not because they like the Israeli, because they think this is the key to open the White House or to open the Senate in America. That's the truth, and that's the problem. But we in Qatar, when we talked with the Israelis from the beginning and opened their office in Doha, their mission Doha, because we believe in peace. And same countries which I mentioned, there was against us. You can go back and see. There was against Qatar, and they think that we are betraying the Arabs. We did not come with a peace process plan to betray the Arab and the Palestinian. We was supporting the Palestinian at that time and supporting the other Arabs to get their legitimate land.
So my last question, do you think they are naive or do you think they're indifferent to the Palestinian cause?
I think they have their own reading. And what I would like to say, we have a good relation with them. I personally have a good relation with the American. And I know most of the Israeli leaders. But it doesn't mean I agree with all what they say. We have some differences, but the base is there. The difference is when we talk about the peace process, we have no difference to fight the terrorism. We have no difference to fight any other causes which will bring instability. I am against anybody to have a war in the Middle East, especially between the Israelis and their neighbors. I would like to see the Israelis in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia, in Egypt, everywhere, as I would like to see the Qataris and the Arabs in Israel. I think that's the end goal which we want. But this end goal need really people who can make fair deal between both parties.
Okay, thank you very much
Pleasure.
For your time. And thank you for watching this interview here on France 24.